The final scene of Better Call Saul is perfect. But to unpack why, we have to rewind a bit. Before Saul, before Jimmy McGill, to Slippin' Jimmy. The actions that donned that epithet in his older brother's mind are in the distant past. In childhood, Jimmy at a young age was aware of the selfish human condition. He might have not been able to contextualize it in words, but his actions displayed he understood the way the game worked. The stompers over the stomped. You can only choose one side in the game of life. His father was crushed by it, and he actively played on the opposing team so as not to go down with him. A cry on deaf ears turned into a declaration to never be like the man he looked up at. He would choose the winning side. Always. But somewhere along the way, something ever so slightly shifted. It was his humanity, and it started with Chuck. Jimmy might have been on the winning team, but his was below that of a junior varsity. He swindled, he schemed, but it never rose his status. It merely kept him alive. And when stagnation caught up with him, Chuck saved him. He offered something more, and Jimmy took the helping hand. This, though, would be the beginning of a much darker path. Initially on this new road, he played on a new team in the middle. One that loses, but also one that ultimately wins when it matters most. He struggled, more than he ever had before, but the weight he forced himself to bear paid its worth in full. Jimmy had something more, and the one who gave him the opportunity to grab it is the same person that would influence him to throw it away. Jimmy, somewhere down the line, developed a new goal that completely eclipsed his ideology of winners and losers. However, after he arrives at that goalpost, his biggest supporter walks away. And so, understandably, Slippin' Jimmy seeps through the cracks of the younger McGill's career. First, to enact retribution on his betrayer, and eventually permeating throughout his entire life once again. Jimmy McGill dies with Chuck and his poisonous words. Thus, the shady lawyer Saul Goodman is born. But his humanity refuses to vanish. There's a strong thread keeping the ball from falling, after all. A thread named Kim Wexler. Kim, like Jimmy, had a childhood that parallels her adult life. On the surface, she was forthright and trustworthy. But with someone devious beside her, she defaults to playing at their tempo. It was like this when she was with her mother, and it is like this when she is with Saul. It becomes much easier to do evil when someone else is guiding your malevolence. She liked it. It got her what she wanted. And like Saul, she's good at it. But most importantly, it's fun. Fun she could never experience with her guiding morals alone. With Saul Goodman, she had a taste of pleasure, and eventually becomes consumed by its intoxication. Where at the end of one season finale, Jimmy left Kim speechless with an occupational name change. It's in the very next season finale, Saul is left aghast while Kim flexes her wicked pistols. His presence, his persona, Saul Goodman, transforms Kim into a villain who goes against her own moral compass. She isn't Kim when she's with Saul, she's Saul Goodman's wife, the duo that destroys everything around them for their benefit and amusement. However, when Kim eventually comes to this realization, she's only half right. It's not that they're bad for each other, it's that he's bad for her. Because Kim, to Saul, is the precious thread holding his humanity together. If it snaps, Saul Goodman will no longer be a persona, but the entire man. And this, of course, is only solidified by episode 9's transition. We don't see a gradual decline into the funny lawman we know from Breaking Bad after Kim's departure. We cut immediately to the crooked attorney, well indoctrinated into his malpractice, with Jimmy nowhere to be found. Saul gone. Slippin' Jimmy has a reawakening, but this time, he's playing for a losing side. He was granted a second life, something hardly anyone in his position gets, but he throws it into jeopardy because of his unbearable stasis, frozen in a life of a lie. He swindles and schemes, but it's only to maintain his life of loss, a stark contrast to the success he had before. Of course, he would come back after getting a taste of old satisfaction. After all, everything important to him is long gone. The only thing that can feasibly return is an old lifestyle. Even if it's a semblance, he'll at least live again, if only slightly, even at the cost of other lives. But it's still not enough. He pushes, and pushes harder. And the one who pushes back is of the same age bracket that once made him stop short. Jimmy's humanity once won over his elaborate exploit, and now he's halted once more by the elderly. He displays aggression, but it's only a front. His humanity surfaces and places him at the end of his road. A road labeled Slippin' Jimmy, anyway, because right after this short-lived return, an even shorter re-establishment begins with Saul Goodman's brief hello. Jimmy became Saul after Kim's vacancy, and immediately shakes the name off after hearing another type of goodbye from her, a permanent goodbye to a deep dark past. Kim's trying to move on from those mistakes, but Jimmy, he's just been trying to relive them. They both lived in secret, scared of the past. Now, finally, they face it. Jimmy inspired Kim with a simple phone call, and Kim returns the favor by showing Jimmy he's officially alone in his lies. So, he pushes back, this time, for the first time in a long time, in the opposite direction. He wears the facade of Saul Goodman, only to reveal his humanity never left him. It was only lost. Kim inadvertently stripped it from him, but eventually returns it. And all it takes for both parties is simple acknowledgement. Acknowledgement of past mistakes. Mistakes that hurt. Mistakes that killed. But Kim faced it. So, Jimmy too finally overwrites a tape showcasing a false winner. And, like his father once did, embraces a losing side. But at least he's losing with style. At least he's losing to look ahead toward a better future. Chuck was wrong. Jimmy could change. He does change. People, anyone, can change. And in this final scene, a perfect depiction of a man content in his growth. He recalls Kim's malicious finger guns he couldn't respond to back then, and reciprocates with guns of his own. Guns of benevolence. Guns of healing. And time moves again.